Well, she's fat like a cat, skinny like a pillar, and that's why we call her Caterpillar, Caterpillar, be Caterpillar, be Caterpillar, baby. Where you gonna get tonight?
Hi, I'm Ray Campi, the Rockabilly Man. Here's one of my fans here. Are you my fan? Huh? Cinder? I don't know, he better go. Anyway, you know, people have asked me over the years about the earliest records I made, how I started to make records. Today, my music is on over almost 100 records, if you count reissues all over the world. So, I'd like to talk a little bit about it, and you get some idea about it. In 1943, my family moved to Austin, Texas. We left New York City, Yonkers, New York, in a 41 Dodge pulling a great big Indian house trailer. My dad said, we got to get out of New York before the winter because the winters were terrible. So we settled in Austin, Texas. And guess what we had the first Christmas? There it is. Can you see that? We made a snowman, 1943 in Austin. Anyway, we settled in Austin, and my dad bought a piece of property on West 6th Street, 1116. It was a commercial building on the bottom, and it had a nice apartment upstairs, so a good place to live. Well, in 1946, a few years later, my mother's brother, Hector Lehman, moved to Austin from Newfoundland. He was from Newfoundland. Now, he played the little button accordion. My mother played the button accordion, and he had two sons, Harvey and Harold, and a daughter, Nellie. And Harold also played the button accordion. So it wasn't long before the families would get together and we'd have these little button accordion parties. And I was learning to play the guitar, and pretty soon Harold learned to play the guitar. You'll see Harold and I were around 1949 trying to play songs and pick out Ernest Tubb songs on the guitar. That was how we really got started. Well, Harold lived in a house, his family, that was on the same property with us, and it was in the rear. And on Sundays, Harold and I would play and try to learn songs, and Harold soon got a job at the Coca-Cola bottling plant on West 6th Street, which was just right up the street from our house. He met some guys there that played. Well, on Sundays, we'd all get together and start to play and learn songs. I'll tell you who they were. We had Granville Slim Hendrix on electric lead guitar, which is beautiful for me to see a guy playing that. Buddy Wyatt on rhythm guitar. I was on rhythm guitar and mandolin. Harold was on guitar and accordion. And I started to write songs. I said, I met a guy, he said, you ought to write some songs. So you're going to see a picture of the first songs I wrote. One of them was Shatterproof Heart, and one called I Need You. And those are the original papers I wrote them on. Anyway, we decided with this little band that we ought to get a booking and somebody would like to pay us to play. So I talked the club owner into a booking. It's called Rudy's Drive-In. It was on South Congress. It later became Big Gill's Club. It's still there in Austin. And we did our first show, and you see a picture of the ad from the newspaper in which they misspelled my name, and Harold, with his famous accordion, is Laymon instead of A-N. So being big stars, you have to deal with this problem of not being recognized the way you should be. Anyway, after we got to playing for a few weekends, you know, in the house, I had a friend who was an older fellow, and he said, I know you make music in your house. I have a disc recorder. I'd like to come over and cut some discs. So he started doing that. And we would do enough discs so each guy in the band could have a version of the song, because you're cutting the disc one time. They were blanks, audio disc blanks. And we made quite a few of those, and some of them survived, and you're going to see a picture of a few of them. Anyway, we did keep playing. And sometimes I didn't have the band with me, I didn't have the guys there, so my parents said, why don't you try to do a solo act on the stage? And we had an Austin Little Theater in Austin, a little theater group. It's now called Zachary Scott Theater, who I knew, by the way, and met years later. shows they did had little acts between the scenes, and so we worked up a little hillbilly act, and Betty Jo Gregory was in the act, and Bob Bartell and myself, and we sang together "Oh Rattler," Grandpa Jones song, and "Why Don't You Haul Off and Love Me." And the act went over good. People liked it. It was a pretty good success. It was at Sangarundi Hall, which is part of Schultz's Beer Garden on Red River. It's still there. The hall is still there. And the play they did was called The Drunkard, a melodrama. So that got me on stage with some other people, kind of built my confidence a little bit. And of course, after that band dissolved, kind of didn't last too long. You know, the Sunday, the people that played in Harold's house, Harold's room, I started high school and I met some guys, and Bert Rivera had played steel, learning the steel with me at home, and he was in high school with me, and he started around the same time. So we started another band, which I call Ramblin' Ray and the Ramblers, and it worked out pretty good. We had Douglas Burton on fiddle, we had Leon Hankins, a good singer, playing rhythm, and I played lead guitar and rhythm, and Bert Rivera played steel. And it was together about 2 years, and I said, we ought to get on the radio, we could get more booking. So we did an audition for a station in Austin, KNOW, and we had a Saturday show, and then we got another audition at KTAE in Taylor, Texas. This is 1951, and we got on there on Sunday, and you'll see a picture of the poster I had made up advertising our radio shows. Well, after I was out of high school, I graduated in 1952, the band broke up, everybody went their own way, and I started college in around 1953, University of Texas, and I started another band. And I had a friend, Henry Hill, who was a good bass player and guitar player, and we got Johnny Maddox, another friend who was very hot on lead guitar, and sometimes we had Benny Harville playing drums with us. And I played guitar, you know, rhythm guitar, and sang. And we made a record, and we took a tape from the University of Texas studio in 1951 to Bob Tanner of TNT Records in San Antonio, and he said, "I'll give you guys a chance." You know why he gave me a chance? Because of Elvis. Bob had been the tour director of Elvis for a West Texas tour. Now, he loved country music. He recorded Betty Barnes, Vivian Warden, the Jacoby Brothers, people like that, country acts. Bill Anderson, who recorded City Lights for Bob Tanner on TNT, big hit for Ray Price. Anyway, the way it worked out, he said, "You know that guy Elvis, I took him on his tour and everybody went crazy. You sound a little like him. I think I'll give you a chance." So we recorded Caterpillar, which I wrote, and Play It Cool, which I wrote. And that was in 56, and that's about how many records we sold, about 56, I think. Anyway, just kidding, we sold less than that. But it was a start, it was a chance, and it gave me another shot with a New York publisher who got me a Dot record. Dot was really coming up. It Ain't Me, and Give That Love to Me, 15617, if you still want to go out and find it. It's out there somewhere. But I never had too many hits. I never had any hits, but I've had a lot of records. And I had a revival on Roland Rock Records in 1971 and made a lot of records for him, LPs and 45s for Ronnie Weiser. And those records are still floating around. And then different people were starting record labels in Sweden, Finland, Holland, France, Switzerland, all over, Spain. And my records just kept coming out, and I really got famous in midlife. And I'm in old age life now, but I was in midlife then. Anyway, I hope you liked the little story, and you're going to see a few pictures of some of the records and some of the band members, and keep rocking, everybody.
Well, Well, she's fat like a cat, skinny like a pillar, and that's why we call her caterpillar, caterpillar. Be caterpillar, be caterpillar, baby. Where you gonna get tonight? Well, where you gonna get tonight? Well, we're gonna get it tonight. Well, we're gonna get it tonight. Well, we're gonna get it tonight. Caterpillar, baby. Where you gonna get tonight? Night, night, night. Where you gonna get tonight? Where you gonna cat tonight?